The mango tree behind Obudu Hilltop Estate had a magic of its own. Its branches were thick, twisting into the sky like they held secrets. Beneath it sat two children, barefoot, beaming, unaware that the world would one day try to separate them. Annabel Obasi, daughter of the powerful chief Obasi, was always dressed in the neatest Ankara dresses, her hair tied with colorful ribbons, her sandals dangling beside her on the grass. She was soft-spoken, but her laughter rang like chimes whenever Damilola Adeoye was near. Dami, the son of a respected architect, was always covered in dust. His knees were permanently scraped from climbing, his shirt untucked, and his smile a little too wide. But it was that smile that made Annabel trust him more than any driver, any maid, or any adult at this estate. Every Saturday, without fail, they met under the mango tree. Annabel would bring chin-chin wrapped in napkins. Dami would bring siya-flavored chips he'd beg his older cousin for. Sometimes they played catch. Sometimes they simply sat and made plans for their imaginary house in clouds. "I'll build you a swing in the living room," Dami once said proudly, mango juice glistening on his chin. Annabel giggled. "I want a purple one, and a mango tree inside. I swear it'll be the best house ever. I'll build it myself. You promise?" Dami grinned and held out his pinky. "I swear on all the siya in the world." Their pinkies linked, and the world seemed perfect, but childhood is fragile. One rainy morning, when Annabel came with her chin-chin and waited, Dami never showed. Nor the next week, nor the next. The Adeoyes had vanished. Word spread, Mr. Adeoye had died. There were debts. They had to leave quietly. And so, under the mango tree that once held their dreams, only Annabel remained, waiting, hoping, then forgetting. They left at dawn. No goodbyes, no packing boxes. Just one bag each in silence thick enough to choke on. Damilola Adeoye didn't fully understand the weight of what had happened, only that his mother had cried herself to sleep for 3 nights straight, and their landlord had suddenly started locking the gate earlier than usual. One morning, his uncle arrived in a rickety taxi, and before the sun had fully risen over Obudu, Dami's childhood was gone. See, they moved in with a distant aunt in McCourty, squeezed into a 2-room apartment where the fan worked only on Sundays, and the water came once a day, if at all. The mango tree was replaced with a gutter. Chin Chin was replaced with soap Gary. Dami's mother, once graceful and strong, now stared blankly at walls. At night, Dami would lie on a mat beside his younger sisters and whisper stories about a house in the sky, one with purple swings and mango trees indoors. He told them about Annabel, though he never used her name. The girl who wore ribbons and laughed like bell chimes. He'd say he never forgot her, even when he started hawking sachet water after school, even when he learned to patch slippers and later lay bricks for money, even when life hardened his palms and emptied his pockets. He remembered the mango tree, the pinky promise, the girl who once looked at him like he mattered, and he made another promise, this one silent. "I'll find you again. And when I do, I won't come with nothing." The air in Lagos was different, denser, louder, bolder. Annabel Obasi stepped off the plane with polished confidence and a UK business degree. At 27, she was returning home to take up her new role at Obasi Holdings, her father's booming real estate empire, with his flagship headquarters in Lekki Phase 1. The plan was simple. Groom her to be the next CEO, the new face of the family legacy. But Annabel didn't feel like a legacy. Behind the custom-tailored blazers and expensive heels was a woman who barely knew who she was outside of boardrooms. Her childhood was now a blur of clipped memories, boarding schools, etiquette tutors, coal halls with golden spoons. Obudu, the mango tree, even that boy with the dusty knees and siya-stained fingers. What was his name? Depo? Daimeji? She couldn't remember. Her office was on the 11th floor of Obasi Towers, a sleek building of glass and steel. From her desk, she had a perfect view of the sprawling construction site below, a massive housing estate her father was developing as a legacy project. It was during one of her zoning inspections that she first saw him. Damilola Adeoye, now 29, had grown into his bones, taller, broader, Skin darkened by sun and sweat, movements precise like someone who carried away the world one block at a time. He wore no mask of pride, no false airs. Just a faded shirt, cement-stained boots, and a calm smile that spread without effort. From her glass wall, Annabel noticed him. There was something about the way he worked. Steady, kind, quiet. He laughed with the younger workers, helped an older mason lift heavy bags without being asked. His shirt clung to his back with sweat, but he never stopped smiling. Something stirred in her chest. She didn't know his name, didn't know his story, but something about him felt familiar. He, on the other hand, had recognized her from the moment she walked past the scaffolding. Head held high, blazer sharp, heels clicking like royalty. Annabel, and just like that, the girl who forgot, had walked straight past. The boy who remembered. It started with glances. Every morning, Annabel found herself lingering by the east window of her office longer than necessary, coffee in hand, watching him. He had a rhythm to his work, consistent, unbothered by chaos. He wore the same worn boots, the same faded cap, and the same unbothered smile. At first, she told herself it was harmless curiosity. Then came the thoughts, the wonder, the way her heart beat faster when she caught a glimpse of him laughing or helping another worker. She asked the site supervisor his name, Dami, no last name, just that. It clung to her mind like perfume in a clothes room. But how could she approach him? She was Chief Obasi's daughter. Lagos elite, raised in castles of concrete and polish. And he, a bricklayer with cement dust on his trousers and dignity in his eyes. Still, something pulled her. One Thursday evening, after much mental wrestling, Annabel did something she had never done in years. She wore a plain pink top, tied her braids into a bun, slipped into old jeans, and took a ride to Mama Nene's canteen in Aja. She had heard whispers on site that some of the workers liked to eat there after shifts. She didn't want to wait until fate gave her another excuse to cross paths with him. She was going to create one. And there he was, seated alone at a corner bench, plate of rice and fish before him, laughing with the vendor's son. Her palms sweated. She stood in line behind him, pretending to look at the wall menu. When he turned around and gave her a quick nod and smile, something jolted in her chest. She almost forgot how to breathe. He bought his meal, sat back down. She followed slowly, picked the table across from him. "Hi," she said. He blinked, surprised, then smiled again. "Hey." They talked about the weather, Lagos traffic, the food, nothing serious. But something had started, a spark beneath a mountain of forgotten memories. And for the first time in years, Annabel left the place not wanting to escape it, but desperate to return. The next Thursday couldn't come fast enough. Annabel found herself dressing down again, tying her braids in the same casual bun, and returning to Mama Nene's canteen like it was some sacred appointment. This time, Dami spotted her first. He smiled wider than the week before and waved her over. "Same table?" he asked. "Of course," she said, like it had always been theirs. They shared a plate of Acero and Dodo, trading soft banter over the sound of metal spoons clinking and Mama Nene shouting over the generator. Annabel let herself laugh, really laugh. No boardroom, no surname, no fear. Then it happened. A small boy, shirt torn at the collar and barefoot, approached their table. He tapped Dami on the arm, eyes wide and stomach growling. "Uncle, I day hungry." Dami didn't flinch. He didn't ask questions or hesitate. He stood up, walked straight to Mama Nene's counter, paid for a plate of food, and handed it to the boy with a cold sachet of water. "Eat well, he said, ruffling the boy's head. Annabel watched in stunned silence. When he returned to their table, she stared at him for a moment before whispering, "Why did you do that?" Dami shrugged. "I know what hunger feel like. If I fit help, even small, why not?" He said it like it was nothing, but to her it was everything. This was the man her father would never approve of, the kind of man her friends would laugh at. But as she looked at his face, calm, content, real, she saw a man who had nothing, yet gave like he had everything. And in that moment, something clicked. Not attraction, not infatuation. Respect. It started with a name. By the way, Dami asked casually one Thursday, "What's your name?" You've been dodging that question for weeks. Annabel hesitated. The truth sat on her tongue, trembling. If she said Annabel Obasi, she risked everything. The last name would spark recognition. Or worse, resentment. Her father's company had swallowed many smaller ones over the years. And she couldn't bear the thought that Dami might see her as just another spoiled heiress slumming for thrills. So she smiled and lied. "Vicky, my name's Vicky." Dami nodded slowly. "Nice. Short and sharp. You look like a Vicky." She laughed, but inside, guilt pricked at her like a hidden thorn. The lie grew legs quickly. She told him she worked in admin for a small firm nearby, said she lived with an aunt in San Gatito, got herself a cheap second phone with a new SIM, the one she used to text him every morning. He never questioned it. Dami wasn't the type to pry. He spoke little of himself unless asked. Just stories about his sisters, the long queue at the well, a neighbor's radio he fixed. But in those small stories, Annabel saw a man who bore the world with grace. And she hated herself for lying. Every Thursday, she'd dress down, take a boat to Mama Nene's, and meet the man who called her Vicky. And each time, she wished she didn't have to pretend. That he'd know her, not for the name she carried, but for the woman she was around him. She laughed with him, ate umlaut with her hands, helped Mama Nene clear plates when it got busy. These were things she never did in Lekki, things no one in her circle would understand. But with Dami, she was Vicky, the girl who didn't care about chandeliers or champagne, who could be real. And still, she feared the truth like fire. Because if she lost this, it wouldn't just be the boy who remembered. It would be the girl who broke her own heart. Dami never said anything at first, but he noticed the way Vicky's hands were always soft. Too soft for someone working admin at a small office. The way her pronunciation of certain words carried that clipped UK sharpness that only expensive schools produced. The way she never complained about Aj's heat. The way she laughed when a Danfo nearly splashed water on them. That day, as muddy water brushed the edge of her jeans, she had simply smiled and said, "Lagos drivers want to baptize me today." Dami blinked. "You day laugh." She chuckled. "If I vex, it go change anything?" He shook his head, smiling. You crave small." But deep inside, a question had been planted. Another Thursday evening, he watched her try to untangle her hair bun using a tiny mirror at their table. The mirror had gold trim, a brand he had seen once at a boutique in Lekki. He didn't ask, but the thought lingered. She always knew the best time to leave, just before the rain started. She always had airtime. Her clothes, while plain, never looked cheap. And when she once dropped her bag, he noticed her phone, clean, unscratched, the same model his site engineer used. Still, Dami said nothing. He liked her, and he was scared that if he pushed too hard, she might disappear. Annabel, on the other hand, was spiraling inside. She had memorized her script, what her aunt did, how long she worked in admin, even the route she took to work. But each week, it became harder to maintain. Dami never pressed, but she could feel his eyes reading between the lines. She knew it wouldn't last, but she didn't know how to stop it. One evening, after another loud round of laughter over the debate between jollof rice and a goosey soup, they sat quietly. Dami stared at her, thoughtful. "Vicky," he said slowly, "you ever feel like you're living two lives?" Annabel froze. "Why do you ask?" He shrugged. "Just curious. You laugh like someone who's free, but sometimes your eyes look tired." She blinked, caught off guard. He saw it, even if he didn't know what it meant. The mask was cracking, the truth inching closer. And Annabel didn't know if her next Thursday would end in a meal or a goodbye. The truth didn't slip. It exploded. It was a Saturday evening, one of those rare days Dami didn't work overtime. He was walking home from mechanics when he heard someone call his name. "Brother Dami." He turned to see Bayo, a young welder from the Obasi site, jogging toward him with excitement in his voice. "You Sabi say we go start phase 3 next month?" "Serious. True talk. Not Chief Obasi daughter day, run the project now. That babe way come back from London. Annabel, ABI Wendemde call am. Dami chuckled. Annabel N? Bayo grinned. Yes now, one fine yellow lady. But he get as she day behave. Always forming serious, but she fine well. He was still talking when Dami stopped walking. His heart slammed against his chest. Yellow lady, from London, Chief Obasi's daughter. Annabel? His mind raced. He thought of Vicky's soft hands, her smooth English, her mysterious job, the gold-trimmed mirror, her uncanny knowledge of his lunch hour, her forced simplicity. No, it couldn't be. But deep down he knew. Monday morning, Dami returned to the site, but he didn't go to work. He stood across the road, staring up at the 11th floor of Obasi Towers. And then he saw her, through the tinted glass, in her real world, her real clothes, her real name, Annabel Obasi. He felt sick. She had lied. For weeks, while he gave her pieces of his truth, she had built walls of fiction. And worse, she was his past. The same Annabel who once promised him mango trees and purple swings under the Obudu sky. She hadn't just forgotten his name. She had erased it. That Thursday, she waited for him at Mama Nene's. He didn't show. Friday, nothing. By Saturday, her texts went unanswered. Her calls rang out. She sat on her bed, her chest tight, knowing she had lost something rare. She whispered to the ceiling, "I'm sorry." But apologies don't echo far in silence. Annabel didn't leave her room for 4 days. The mansion in Lekki Phase 1, usually full of staff and sharp footsteps, now echoed with absence. No spa appointments, no boardroom calls, just the hum of the AC and the quiet ache of regret. Her phone lay face down on her bed. Dami hadn't called, hadn't texted, and why would he? She had lied. But it wasn't just a lie. It was what it meant. She, Annabel Obasi, the girl who once made pinky promises beneath mango trees, had become the very person she swore she'd never be. The kind who judged people by status. The kind who couldn't tell the truth until it was too late. She remembered his face the day they met. The quiet strength. The honesty. Now, all she could remember was the way he looked away. Downstairs, Chief Obasi stood outside her door. For the first time in years, he knocked softly, not like a father giving orders, but like a man asking permission. "Annabel," he said, his voice low. "It's Daddy." Silence. He waited. "I heard what happened with the young man." Still silence. "I didn't know you were hurting this much. And I know I haven't made it easy for you to trust me with your heart." From behind the door, a voice cracked. "He hates me, Daddy, and I deserve it." The door creaked open. She stood there, eyes swollen, cheeks pale, no earrings, no titles, just his daughter. Chief Obasi stepped inside and pulled her close. "I was so busy protecting your name, I forgot to protect your peace," he whispered. "And I'm sorry." They sat on her bed for hours, speaking about love, about loss, about the boy who once built castles with mud and mango peels. That night, Chief Obasi made a decision. The next morning, Dami received a letter from a courier. It wasn't written. It was signed. "Chief Nathaniel Obasi requests to see you. Personally." Obasi Holdings, 11th floor. The same place Dami once stared at from below. Feel like a stranger on the outside of a glass world. Now he stood inside. No cement dust. No boots. Just a clean shirt, polished shoes, and the steady breath of a man who had nothing left to prove. Across from him sat Chief Obasi, dressed in a crisp kaftan. No arrogance in his eyes, just quiet weight. "You look like your father," Chief Obasi began. Dami blinked, surprised. "I knew him. We didn't always agree, but I respected his mind. And his son," Chief paused, "has shown me more integrity than some of my board members." Silence settled between them. "I know who you are, Damilola. I've seen how my daughter has changed since she met you. And I know you loved her before you knew her name." "I still do," Dami replied quietly, "even when it hurt." Chief Obasi leaned back. "Good, because she's never smiled the way she did with you. And I won't be the man who kills that light in her again." He stood and extended a hand. Come to her birthday tomorrow. No conditions, no speeches. Just come. Dami rose slowly, shook the man's hand, and walked out feeling like the boy under the mango tree had finally found his way back. The next night, on the rooftop of Skyview Towers in Ikoyi, fairy lights sparkled across the skyline. Annabel stood alone, wearing a simple golden gown, the breeze teasing her curls. Her friends clapped behind her, guests mingled, but her eyes kept scanning the crowd. Then she saw him, Dami, clean-cut and nervous, but smiling, holding a single rose. Their eyes met. She walked toward him slowly, tears blurring her vision. "Happy birthday, Vicky," he whispered. She threw her arms around him, crying into his chest. "I'm sorry I forgot, but I never stopped needing you. And I never stopped remembering," he said. Behind them, Chief Obasi watched, arms folded, heart quiet. For once, the future felt right. That night, as laughter filled the rooftop, a quiet promise was fulfilled. A girl who once forgot, a boy who always remembered, and a love that bloomed again, not beneath a mango tree, but under Lego stars.